Gearheads, welcome back to the channel. We're working on the T-bucket, but this is a special one because, well, we're changing out the fuel pump and we're replacing it with a different one. Why? Well, you're just gonna have to stick around and see, as well as we got some new fiberglass that's gonna make the body work a little bit easier when it comes time to prep and paint. So when we dropped the motor in episode 2, 3, I don't know, who knows. Everything went in fine. It looked like it went in fine. But when I went to rotate the base, I found that the fuel pump had actually found itself sitting on the edge of the frame. Well, I ended up taking the whole thing off and I found that the clearance here was just not enough. The entire fuel pump was just resting on the rail and the motor didn't seem to be fully set. Now I'm surprised that fuel pump was actually holding this whole thing up. I did check these, none of them are bent or any of that. We did remove it, but it has been one hell of a ride trying to get the right one to go in here because, well, it is a Speedway frame and Speedway doesn't make, well, they don't really stock the right fuel pump anymore that actually goes for the Small Block 350 and the Speedway frame. Here's where it gets kind of iffy. The fuel pump that Speedway sells, as well as most of the other suppliers out there, pretty much all look like this for the mechanical fuel pump. And the Speedway T-bucket itself literally calls for this fuel pump here. Now, I did try to rotate it on the bottom and readjust all that fun stuff, but you can only spin this thing so far on the motor till you're at a point where your AN6 fittings are just either banging against something and it doesn't fit right. Now, to bring you in for some nice visuals here, you can pretty much see how this thing was sitting here. Well, let me actually pull out these bolts here so you can get just a little bit of a better look. So with the pump in right here, it was just barely sitting, once the push rod and everything, was barely sitting on the edge here. Now with the actual outlets and inlets rotated correctly, the fuel pump has these two, as you could say, maybe aesthetic dimples that literally just bang on the frame. And you can see where it actually hit the frame, actually right there. You can see where it hit the frame. So I almost thought about grinding that off. And then I thought to myself, hell, you know, we're just not gonna make it look like crap. And even with it rotated, these barbs would be sitting so far over that it just would not look right at all. So started doing some research and nobody really makes a low profile one of a mechanical fuel pump. And why? Who knows? But look at this one. So after doing some digging on the site and a few other suppliers here and there, I finally came across this fuel pump. If I can get the box open. What the hell? Oh, there we go. Which is essentially, I guess you could say, a mini. It's a lot smaller than the black one in size. And it's very hard to find one that's actually like this. And it has your inlet and your outlet and no BS aesthetic nipples or I don't even know what these are or why these are even here. They serve absolutely no purpose. But side by side comparison, you can definitely see these are two different sizes. But it took me ordering this about 4 times till I finally received the right one. And I'll tell you why in a second. So take a look here. Drop this one in. Now look at that clearance. We are going to rotate it where the barbs are sticking towards the front and out of the way. But you can definitely tell we're going to have a lot more clearance on this thing once it's actually finally set into place here. So we've got our push rod jammed all the way back in. Not too happy about the damage to the clear coat here. I will sand that down and I will blend the clear coat back in. I know it is patinaed, but that's going to end up peeling in the long run and it's just going to look like trash. I have this one listed as a particular part number. They have this one listed as a particular part number as well. But when you order this one, they keep shipping this one. So I did some calling around and they thought it was absolutely batshit crazy. And come to find out, this one was actually discontinued. They had no idea why they were using an old photo on their site. And this is the only one that they actually carry in stock. So they tore the warehouse apart. They found the last remaining old design one and finally shipped that one out. So we're not going to be able to use this one. Like I said, I did look around a lot for one that was a little more, well, as you could say, smaller than this, not chrome. Not a big fan of the chrome look, but this is gonna work perfect for us. But let's take a look at the fiberglass body replacement, because we had some issues with that too in episode 6. So in episode 6, we kind of did a quick dry fit of this here. Episode 6, 7, again, I don't remember what we're on here. And well, we found that it doesn't really fit. Now, we are gonna trim it. We do have to take off a little bit on the edge of the body itself to get this to slip over. And there's a pretty big, significant amount that's gonna have to come off. What drove me absolutely insane was look at this edge. It looks like a 3-year-old on his first day of work, doing fiberglass work, just completely I don't know, they just hacked this away and it's not straight or any of that. Now I get it, it's rough gel coat fiberglass, but yeah, that's a no-go starter right there. Let's run it down so you can just see just a little more on how bad that cut is, especially when you get down here. Now I was gonna run it through a table saw, but I figured to myself, why? It's brand new, shouldn't have to. Let's look at the top though. This is nuts as well. Now either the mold was upside down, but the part number, it's very hard to see, is embossed into the top of the lid here. Now, I'm gonna use some high build primer, but when it comes time to actually cut and do all the buffing, we might end up eating into that. And that is actually pretty thick. It's not stuck on. It's actually molded in. So I'm not sure why they're doing this with the fiberglass, but they really need to rethink their molds here. Lucky for me, after reaching out to them, they sent a replacement. I cut the box open, but I have not inspected it yet. So let's take a peek. That'll really help. This one is in much better condition than the other one. Hopefully. It looks better. This one's actually wrapped in plastic. I don't think the other one was. Yeah, I can already tell, even looking at this, a little bit of imperfection on the edge, but not bad. Even this side was just all jagged. Well, and a little bit of damage there, but we can definitely fix that. Yeah, this one is in way better condition. Still not cut perfect, actually. Even down here at the end, still a little bit off. So we'll think on how we're gonna do that one there. Let's look on the other side though. Yeah, that looks much better. Let's set them on top and kind of compare them. I can already tell the T-bucket's gonna have to be shaved, but we'll set these right on top and see if we can get a little bit of a better comparison. I would have to say that the cut and finish on the top one, being the one that we got as a replacement, is 1,000 times better than what we had before. Compare the two lines here. We'll run it down so you can see. Still not perfect. We'll have to repair that. But again, it's rough gel-coated fiberglass. It's not ready for paint just yet. And does it have the logo on the top? Yeah, sure does. Why is the part number here? I think we'll be able to get that off maybe. Maybe shave it off. I'll figure it out. Maybe one of those wood planes. I think a wood plane would actually rip that up. It would damage the gel coat, but we can easily fix that there. I'm really happy with that. I think that'll work fine. Even on the sides, looks pretty good as well. And again, here's with the new lid on top. We'll have to shave there and shorten that up. That's no biggie as well. But that's a pretty significant amount that's gonna have to come off on there. As well as these are a total pain in the butt to get off. I've been working on the one on the front of the T-bucket now for actually a couple of weeks, but we're at the WD-40 stage now. Seems to be the only thing that takes these stupid stickers off. So I'm hoping we don't have to take the belt off or anything. I got the push rod in there just enough, so this should just sit flush without any issue whatsoever. Oh, nice. And that's holding it in its place there, so we're good. It actually came with some tougher gaskets. They're still paper, but it'd be nice to find a good Felpro one, you know, the metal edge one that actually lasts a little longer. If you guys know of any place that sells them besides these paper ones, let me know. I've checked essentially the big three, as well as the Amazonian website there, and it seems this is just the only thing that's out there. Let me know. So let's get this fuel pump rotated over, because it's just not right. Well, wrong orientation actually. And give it a little rotation there. I think that'll be good. Right about, yeah, I think that'll work there. Let's put a bolt in there and see how that works out. And our final bolt, screw. All right, and now it's all back together. Let's make sure we'll put our hand over the thing and let's see if it actually, pump action works. Yep. So we didn't screw it up too much. Got one of those weird eerie feelings that my gasket maker might actually be dried out. Yeah, I think it's dried out. Maybe, let's find out. Is there still a little bit in there? Come on. Stuff's like super expensive too. I feel a little bit of squishiness in there. Yeah, I think it's just that edge there. Let me pop that. All right, let's see if we can make this work. There's just enough in here to pull this off. And too bad I don't have the applicator anymore. Kind of sucks. I feel like Bob Ross here painting with RTV. Surprisingly, this one went in a lot easier than the last one we put in. I have no idea why. I think maybe because of the size of it, and it was hard to essentially get to. And let me see if I can find my torque wrench, and we'll torque this to spec. We'll snag our little temporary pushrod bolt out of here. And we'll put this one back in. Ooh, that's definitely not the right one. Damn. Oh, there it is. And we are almost there. I'm starting to get excited. It's like you get so close. So close. But there's always something that delays the job. Spirits. I think we're looking good. So now we got 2 pieces of shiny chrome on this T-bucket. Kind of out of place though. Yeah, it's a conversation piece. Hey, why do you only have this chrome piece? Well, I couldn't afford anything else, so I bought the cheapest thing I could find. Polish that up there, we're looking good. So, we'll go do our MPT fittings here. Try to see if I can find a 45 or something for that to bring it over here. Remember, our fuel line is down here. But that's as far as I could go. If I went any further, this here would be banging into this side. Yeah, I could go from the other side, but then we'd have to shorten our line, bring it back, come up through here, come up by the header. Doesn't really make too much sense. Traditionally, if it was actually sitting in a car, it wouldn't be this close to the frame rail. We wouldn't have that problem here. In the meantime though, I'll sand that very lightly and I'll blend that back in just with a can of 2K Glamour Clear there, but I think we're looking good. Guys, so we're getting creative now. I found the 2 cheapest coolant pipes I could find on Amazon. I think between these 2, they were probably like 10 bucks or $7. The angles look kind of right, but we got our special tool here. We're gonna make it work. I've heard some horror stories about those fancy kits and really don't want to draw too much attention to my coolant lines. But I think with a little bit of special ingenuity here, I think we're gonna actually be able to make these work. Trim a little bit off and then set it back there. This should work. They are the right inner diameter. I don't even know what these actually go to. I'm gonna have to look up that number and find out. I know it was for, I don't know, probably an old GM car, but we'll fit that one down there. Now on the bottom side here, it's going to be a little more difficult. I think we can make it work with a razor blade and, again, some American ingenuity, but I didn't really think this one out here, but I'll tell you what, we're going to make it work. Not really sure what angle we should go to, but should probably make it just a tad bit smaller. It is the right diameter for down here and right here as well, and it'll clear the fan perfectly. Well, I hope. So I think the best way, let's get to doing some measuring. Do some rough cutting. Well, we don't really need that anymore, but we'll start here and work our way down. Is that a good angle, or should we go? Nah, we'll go right there. We'll start there. We went with the siding shears. I think this will work. Maybe just a little better to get it started. Actually, you know what? We'll just use a razor blade. Lube it up with some aircraft lube. This is great stuff, by the way, if you can find it anywhere. And then, got some pretty sweet black clamps. Not sure how long they'll actually stay black, but hopefully long enough. Oh, look at that, perfect, first cut. Put that right there. See how long these Amazon clamps actually stay black and actually stay on here. Because we're going to have to start taking some wagers because it might not actually last very long. We'll see though. You know, now that I actually start cranking down on these, they actually don't feel that cheap. So maybe I might be wrong. So this is going to be a little trickier here. We'll just cut there at the vend. Take a guess. I think that'll get us close enough. So let's see if this sucker works out here. First cut. So we'll find out. Ooh, I think that'll actually work. We got to make sure our clamp's out of the way too, so I'll tighten it probably right there so it's not on the belt, and then that one will be fine. Right down there. Maybe we should actually flip this around. Yeah, we'll flip this. So let's look back at this electrical system here. So I'm kind of getting to that point in the build, like I mentioned previously. I kind of want to change up some things, and we talked a little bit about I would say an idiot anti-theft switch. So instead of running the positive cable, negative directly to the battery, I want to put a switch in here. So we're going to have to make another line, but back here I think we'll mount it somewhere inconspicuous away from the battery box, which it'll go right here. I think episode, heck, I don't even remember, something. But we are going to put the box kind of right here. So it'd be nice to have the switch essentially right underneath. But you got to love the T-bucket design. Fuel tank mounted in the back, fuel lines, battery box, battery. Yeah, what more could you wish for? So essentially we'll just use this little bracket that we got here. Pretty simple. We'll have to drill some holes. Could have been welded on before, but these are pretty much last minute changes. Then a pretty simple heavy duty on-off switch. It says it's waterproof. It'll be mounted upside down, so we'll see, but not too sure how it goes into that hole there. That's going to be a hard one. We'll figure it out. So I'm going to have to look through our miscellaneous nuts and bolts and see if I can find a nice threaded, maybe 5/16 or something good. I'd hate to run to the hardware store to actually get something special for this, but I think this will be fine there. It's kind of out of the way. Pop a few holes right there, and then the switch will be mounted kind of on the bottom facing downward. We'll check that out. We can always move it later on. I would hate to drill a bunch of holes, but
I think that'll actually work fine there. Let's see what we got in the old parts bin here. See if we can find something we can actually use. We are getting low. I was complaining in the beginning about having tons and tons of extra nuts and bolts, but it's actually starting to end up working out pretty well. That's empty. I don't know why I threw that in there. Too long. That actually might work. No, we couldn't put a lock washer on that. Maybe. What do we got here? What do we have here? Ooh, that is perfect right there. Let's use these here. Can't tell. I think that's 5. Yeah, whatever. Let's check it out on the tap and die though and see. So these drill bits are about on their last leg here. I don't think they're going to last much longer. Well, really, we've only been using these and not these, but it is a cheap set from Harbor Freight, which I found is on sale right now for like $7.99, which is pretty good steal. I think we can use this one. Actually, you know what? I think that one's broke. Well, that won't work. We're running out of pilot hole bits here. That one might, maybe. The hell? Attempt number 20,000. Since none of those other bits work, we'll bust out something of a little more quality here. Hopefully, these DeWalt ones are just a tad better than the Harbor Freight. Oh, wrong shank. Nice. None of the other holes were this hard. I'm totally going crazy here, and I busted out every drill bit I could possibly find, but I'm a total idiot because nothing was working to drill those holes here, and I ended up taking a break. I totally forgot that on the drill, I had it in hammer mode. Yeah, I'm an idiot. That'll make a difference. Hammer mode? Yeah, it don't drill worth a crap. Oh yeah, much better. I'm telling you, this is like the holy grail. Using a power drill to tap this stuff. Yeah, you can probably screw it up, but boy is it a time saver, especially on these smaller holes. We got to get the switch taken apart here so we can actually run it through. I think that goes on the outside there. So we'll get that mounted here. Let's get these studs off since we're here. And then we can make some power cables with our leftovers from our last video, which we'll slap right in there, but I think these will be pretty good here. So this should sit low enough here, unless we went like that, which that ain't gonna work out, but you can go down like that, and that clears this just barely there. And we may end up reorientating this just depending on how we end our wire setup, whether we come right off or come around. I haven't really figured out how we're going to do that yet, but just really depends here. But it clears just perfectly. So it's going to be tight, but this isn't going to touch the bottom of the tank, and then this won't touch the bottom of the battery box. That's going to go here, and then our switch right on the bottom. The only issue that I could really see is if we started slamming on bumps and maybe it comes up, but there's no way this has that much travel to come that far up. If it did, then we got some serious issues there. So we don't really need too much slack here, but I like to add just a little bit extra. That way later on down the road, if you ever have to fix anything or clean anything up, you can just do it with the cable you're already using here, which we still have a good amount from that kit that we picked up a while back. Then we have 2 of our last terminals left, so we got to make sure that we don't screw this one up, because that's it for this kit. Man, this is some thick rubber on this. More rubber, more insulation than actual contents underneath. Kind of funny. But that's like most wires nowadays. It's It's like they trick you. It's almost like they make you think you're getting a ton of stuff, but you're really not really getting too much at all. And then what we'll do too is on the side that's going to go on the switch, we're going to add just a little more of insulation just for, you know, vibration factor and all that fun stuff. Because it is a high stress point in that area, especially being near the rear suspension. And I would hate for, you know, fuel tank, battery, all that fun stuff, all in the same area. Kaboom. What was it, Ford Pinto, right? Isn't it the one that used to blow up when it got rear-ended? One of those Ford cars, I don't remember. Don't want to be a statistic now. So one of these I ended up reaming out just a little more because the switch itself has a larger size to it. It's 3/8. These say they're supposed to be for 3/8, but it's not when you look at it. It's barely there, but not quite. So we made it just a little bit bigger, but that's for only one side. Stick that in there. And somebody said they got these on Amazon. That's not where I got it. It always gets stuck to the top too. It's a good crimp. Almost too good. So we work with that there. For the other side. All right. Actually, I wonder if we should get just a little more. Let's take a little bit of rubber off that one because that's not going to be enough hold there. So that'll work pretty good there. We'll slide these over, get these heat shrinked on. Then I got some protective caps that slide over and whatnot, which will go on the switch part itself. That way we don't have any spark on the gas tank side. So one of these is our larger one that we reamed out here. It's that one if I remember. We'll put these suckers on there. Just give us a little bit of protection for that gas tank. I don't remember, which one was it? Oh, it was that one right there. So we'll do this one for the battery here. Actually, you know what, we'll do this one for the battery right there. And then for the one coming to the starter, we'll route it right there. So we need one more of our little red protectors here. Oh, actually, I don't know why I put that there. All right, so we'll put that on there. And then lock washer. Then we'll tighten this sucker down. So that should work here. Again, it's out of the way. Not gonna hit the tank. That was my biggest fear with a lot of this, is I just didn't want too much so close to the tank. And then we'll get this mounted up here and route it out of the way, and then we have a little bit for the battery that's going to go on top there, which we'll run it to the terminal we have zip tied over. So that, and then for this one, yeah, that'll be good there. All right, push these suckers up. Now this is only a two position or two-way or one-way, or so I'm just positive in, positive out, just cuts the connection to the starter there. So that'll work good. Those are nice and covered. Tank, battery, all that fun stuff will go right there. Let me twist it just a little bit. Not too sure. Yeah, we'll get that mounted there with a stay. And then let's get the little switch thing on the bottom and then check out that. So now that our little switch is on here, take a peek there and you can see pretty much out of the area. So I'd be on, off, there. Completely out of the way and not near the axle. So that'll be actually covered up too from the rear. The way the bucket's set up, it actually kind of sits and it goes down here a little lower. So you're actually gonna have to reach up and then turn it on, turn it off there. The battery box will sit here, and we got a good amount of slack there. May spin this the other way depending on how the tank and everything sits. So this is still serviceable the way it is. Once the tank is on, it's going to be a little difficult to actually get to this. So we got to make sure that we know what direction we want to route everything before we actually go nuts and throw all this stuff up here. But cheap security, I don't know. We'll tell the insurance company that it's got an anti-theft system on it, and all you got to do is, bam, disabled, like OnStar, right? Well, the headlights came in, and we're using some 7-inchers. You could say they're Harley ones, Jeep ones. Pretty much they're all the same when it comes to the 7-inch round headlights. And look at this. It's the 2023 edition, whatever that means. But let's take a little peek, and we'll just go ahead and get them installed. It's not time to do any electrical yet, but I really need to downsize on all the boxes that are floating around, because we're going to have to end up painting, because the temperature finally got up to, let's say, decent temp. Just the other day I was wearing a hoodie. Yeah, let's say 90 degrees now. Installation instructions. Share happiness, be the best, whatever. Comment section. Yeah, okay. All right, so it's got a halo lens around it. We're gonna plug it in because I need to make sure these work before we go crazy. But then some adapters, various. I used this on another build, this same brand. Didn't really have many issues with it at all, really. They actually look great. And with the halo ring here, the turn signal is built in. So, you'll have your power, then you have your little running light, and then it looks like here, whoever crimped that, wow. Well, maybe we'll have to actually fix that. Yeah. So, but anyways, halo lights, your turn signal, high beam, low beam, pretty simple, nothing too crazy. And the perfect size. The one on the Harley that I installed a while back still works, so went with these. Surprisingly, these were a lot cheaper than going with halogens. 38 bucks for two versus the halogen ones were almost 50 for the casing, so it's a little tight here to get these fed through. And then the harness that actually came with these, just gonna try to see if we can wedge this down there. We're gonna have to get something nice to braid this down here. Maybe some conduit would look good on that. And then the light itself, and we'll get one of those nice wiring kits too when it's time to actually put all this together. That way it looks good. When I did the Harley, I kind of did a homemade harness, and not really too happy with the way it actually looks. So we'll do a nice one. It's actually nicely braided together, and it does the job. Oh, lucky me. I didn't even look at the plug. So it looks like they fit. Well, they look like they did, but they're not going together. Oh, man. Talk about a tight fit. There's plenty of room in here too. Well, these are 7-inchers, and they 100% do not. What the hell? Well, it called for 7-inch lights. These are 7-inch lights, and these do not click in. That's funny. All right, with some slight modifications, a little bit of breaking of some brackets, we got it, I think. We'll find out here in a second. Yeah, I've never liked the design of these on the Harleys. And I like it less on these, but hopefully this thing doesn't shake the hell. Hold the light in. I think we didn't bend too many brackets on the light itself, so it'll work. Getting these actually pushed through, it's just a tad bit of a challenge. And we can't forget this part, most important part. Most important part. Wonder why this one's actually 3 instead of just 2. I wonder if they took into consideration a turn signal adapter as well on this. All right, not too bad. What do you guys think? A little bit of touch of modern on the front. We'll have our little halo ring here. We'll get these nice and tightened, and then when it comes time to wire, we'll get all this cleaned up. But yeah, looks pretty nice. I did forget, I'm not sure what color I ordered. I didn't want the blue front end, but now that I'm thinking on the halo lights, maybe the blue to match those Pontiac rears we're gonna do. But if you do go with blue for these front headlights, you're kind of pushing it a little bit because they're more modern, so guarantee you'll probably end up getting pulled over. But if we went with a green or yellow or something, we'll double check when we plug it all in. But either way, I think they'll look pretty sweet compared to like a halogen setup. But it's definitely coming along. I did order the tires and the rims. It's been taking just a little bit to kind of figure out what I wanted to go with here. I did get the dust covers added to the front here on the spindles or the Jesus bolts or whatever. And this fuel pump is actually going to work perfectly for what we need. So we're waiting on a few adapters. I did team up with a company online. They're going to send me some alternatives of what I've been using in the past, especially for our MPTs and our AN6s. So we're going to try those out and route it just a little bit differently. But definitely compared to the black one that was on here, we're doing really, really good with the room here. And then I'm pretty surprised these actually worked out. I wish I knew what kind of car these came from, but definitely cutting it and using turbocharger clamps worked perfectly there. The other thing I'm really looking at addressing too, and I'm going to end up 3D printing something, I think. Even though we have the safety caps on here for the positive, for the hot wires, as you know with T-buckets, fuel tanks, batteries, all that stuff, I keep saying it's in the back. And for a majority of them, everybody puts that stuff in the back. I have seen it where some people will put the battery up towards the front or whatever, but we're going with everything the way the book said. We're building it just like the book said. And yeah, we could have changed a few things, but you know, due to room and all that other stuff, and considering the cost of a LiPo battery is really expensive, we just went with a cheap Everstar. But what I may do here is I might 3D print a panel or a cover, something that goes over this, because once everything is on top of this, we're not really going to need to access anymore once we test out all our connections and make sure everything's good here. But last thing I want is any type of spark, you know, adverse arc or anything going on down here, especially at the bottom of the tank, if the tank were to shift or anything like that. The other thing too that I've kind of been holding off on is we got our drive shaft and all that fun stuff. Slip yoke is just sitting in here for now, but I'm not ready to attach this to the rear end just yet. We're probably going to do a test start, make sure everything runs, and get this filled up as well. Going to do, what is it, Dextron from Walmart. It's the cheapest transmission fluid I could find, and it's going to be like $40 for essentially all the quarts that we need for this turbo here. But in the meantime, leave this disconnected so we can do maybe a test start. I did have some issues getting it into gear. For the longest time, it wouldn't go in the park. And for the longest time, it was only shifting between second and first. So I was a bit worried there. But after kind of, you know, yoking on it and beating it back and forth, I finally got it to go in the park. And then now it goes in nice and smooth. So it goes park, neutral, reversed, first and second. So we don't have an issue with that anymore. We also need to get this sucker filled up here. I need to look and see what our braking fluid is going to be. Not too sure on that yet. And I didn't even look to see if this thing had a fill hole, which I probably should have looked at that before we did anything too crazy. Well, never mind. We found the fill hole and the drain hole, so we're good here. So let's do a little bit of quick electrical testing here. So red is supposedly, according to the diagram on these, is actually your high beam. And then obviously black being your ground. So hopefully we get a good ground. Let's test this out. Let's see, then we need to test the turn signal and the halo running light. So let's check that out. Okay, so we have high beam. And then we'll keep on the ground there. Let's check our low beam. And sometimes with these cheap headlights, they either work or they don't. But what's kind of funny is if they do work, they work forever. I've got them in the motorcycles, like I was saying, in a few other places. Never had any issues with them. Okay, so that appears to be Okay, so that works fine as well. And then let's test out our running light, which is going to be the white. Now the running light is just essentially just the halo light. So you can have your headlights on, and you can have technically have your headlights off, but you just have the ring, like a running light. Check that out, just like that, okay? And then the next one is going to be our turn signal. I'm hoping the wiring harness has all the stuff for the turn signal and whatnot. And I haven't even decided if I'm really going to wire in a turn signal, but we'll make sure it works. And there's your turn signal, so it'll flash like that. Pretty bright too. Don't know if you can tell from the camera, but it's bright as hell on my end. So sweet. So we know that works. We know that the light works. We know the wiring is good. What I noticed inside the housing too, the connector, the H4 or whatever it is pretty cheap. So I had to kind of push the copper stuff back together. So we know this one works. We'll test out the other one, make sure that works. And then I can tighten this down, and then later on we do the wiring. We get all this routed correctly. All right, gearheads, well, that's all we got for episode 7 here. Got a lot of work that we actually have to do on the bucket. The weather finally warmed up, so we can actually get the painting, priming, doing all that fun stuff here before the weather cools down again. Appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Hit the like and subscribe. Help the algorithm there. I'll see you for episode 8, 9. We got 200 more to go before we actually make some significant progress, so we'll get there.